okay. I think that's about as good as it's gonna get. Except for... There we go. There we go. Am I back? No? Is it still being silly? Vipo? Vipo, why aren't you doing what you're supposed to do? Uh-oh, that might be a problem. Go to reactive real quick, see what's going on. Oh, it's because it logged me out of Discord. Yes, authorize. You working now? Are you working now? No? I don't like the fact that I'm having to test this right now, but I suppose we're gonna do what we can. Okay, testing. Nope, he's dead, guys. Unfortunately, the Vipo has decided that it needs to not work, which is weird because I'm getting all of the proper who's or what's it's. So I guess just my little dude is going to be, you know, not alive for a minute, and I suppose that's how things are gonna have to go for today. So yeah, hello. I think I finally found a configuration that works for me. I managed to make the camera a little bit more off kilter so it's not quite in the way. I have put the manual focus on so that way it doesn't keep pulsing. And I think we're in pretty good spot because I can hold the guy up and really see all the detailed bits that I couldn't see from being too far away from the Mini. And as an additional bonus, I also think I fixed the Discord alerts, or the Twitch alerts. So hopefully, I'll be able to start seeing some of that as well. I think the next thing for me, though, is to go ahead and figure out how to better isolate the sound for my microphone. So what I'm going to do today is something that I tried to do yesterday, but because of how everything was set up, I couldn't see it too well. So I am going to do all of the blending I can today. See if I can fix some of the transitions on the Mini, because they're not quite where I want them to be. And now that I can clearly see that, I can actually play with it a little more, which is the main goal. So let's go back to our halfway decent brush and see if I can get some smooth transitions going on. And so what I'm going to do to start myself off is get a little bit of water. Actually, I think I want to also add some black in here so I can transition back down to the shades. Hey, Sindarius. Paint stream so early in the morning. It's 9:18 for me, so not too early. But yeah, I know for some it is pretty early. In my defense, I still wake up at about 6 in the morning every day. It's just kind of become habit. And I don't really have much going on today because it's a weekend. My wife's not here, and I figured I would just go ahead and, since I was going to paint anyway, at least until lunchtime, get some painting done, get some streaming done. And I figured that would be okay. And to be completely honest, even before the stream started, I got some work done. I went ahead and painted, or based up, the previous Death Shroud that I was working on yesterday. So now he's on what I think is a pretty neat base, because the angle of his feet was such that I was really able to put him at a bit of an incline, as though his leg were on top, or he was as though he were standing on something. I can talk, I promise. It's not too early for me to be doing this. But yeah, this guy is the last one I need to work on, so once I finish him, I will be done with the Death Shroud and I can move on to another project. And on another slightly cool note as far as I'm concerned, me mispainting this guy and giving him that like orangey burnt look worked out really well, because in general that looks so good. Thank you, Semajolis. How's it going, buddy? This is the last one. This guy is the the sergeant of the Terminator squad. So I'd like to make him look as good as possible. In for an honor, built Baldur's Gate 3. Good lord. That's going to be a hefty amount of gameplay. I'm going to eventually do one of those runs, but now is not the time. I'm going to go ahead and try and finish my current run with my current tab, and then after I do that, I'll probably go back and do an honor mode run, and I'm going to make it even more difficult because I'm going to use the Dark Urge for it. So we'll see how that game goes. But yeah, I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work, because from what I understand, honor mode is an absolute... I don't want to call it a chore, but it's an absolute beast to try and get into because of how much they've added. Dark Urge is apparently one of the easier honor mode. I guess so. I guess we'll find out when I do it. I'm curious as to why, but I really don't want to have anything more spoiled for me, because I've had quite a bit of the game spoiled for me. Though that was purely self-inflicted. Yeah, easier, quote-unquote. I finished the second of the Death Shroud yesterday, and I got him based up today, so this is what he's looking like right now. And I'm kind of sad, I just realized I missed the opportunity to put a Space Wolf helmet on the podium, but I was thinking that since my other army is Fists, that I should go ahead and put an Imperial Fist head on there. I haven't drilled it out a little bit, so it looks like he's been shot all up. But yep, so I've got 2 of them done. This was the first one, and they're going to be a lot of fun on the tabletop, I hope. I'm excited to see how they play with Typhus, because I did a little bit of research. Oh yeah, Ben, we got my 3rd official army started. Well, yeah, that's right. Did you get the new Custody stuff? You'll go ahead and buy yourself some Custodes? Or did I misread that this morning? Was that someone else? Got the Combat Patrol? Congratulations, especially because it looks like they're going to release a new one with the new codex, and it's not going to be as good as the current one in terms of point value, because they've been releasing alternate combat patrols that have been consistently less good than the previous ones, though I definitely understand their logic as to why. My understanding, and it's just from kind of playing the game, is that they're trying to get rid of, like, the big centerpiece units for the combat patrols, because it's really hard to balance that game with those giant centerpiece units. And while personally, I liked the centerpiece units, I thought they were a great way to get people, like, a good starter part of their army, I can understand that if they wanted to make Combat Patrol its own game, the need to get rid of them. Went to your game store and asked them to order two more. Good lord. So you're going to just buy 3 of those and make that your Custodes army? I mean, at that point you'll have it. That'll be over 2,000 points if I recall properly. Or really close to it, I don't remember. But yeah, did you see I posted the new army box? Because they have a new one. It's going to have like 6 bikes and a bunch of like 6 Terminators, a guard squad, and the new dude. The beginning and the way I'll build it, it'll be 2,400 points. Yeah, you're going to have quite a bit. You're going to have a ton of Sisters of Silence. Good luck with that. I'm assuming they're not going to get as nice a paint job as the rest of them, but if I recall right, you've got some really awesome paint jobs going on. Oh, speaking of Semajolis, I believe it's Sindarius. Let me check real quick, because I don't want to start singing praises. Okay, yeah, shortened everything down. No, disable that. Yeah, Sindarius did an Alpha Legion / Imperial Fists chapter. It's all custom, and all of them are like transitioning from, you know, the yellow of the Imperial Fists over to like the Alpha Legion color. So all of his models have that cool transition going on. Actually, forgive me a second. I'm in no hurry to get this guy done. Not all, but the big major pieces. Yeah. let's see. So, like, let me find a picture, because you had some really awesome ones to show off. How far back do I need to go to find those really cool pictures? Okay, so yeah, there we go. We're gonna open that link, and what do you got? Go to ya, and boom. So I think I can make that. So yeah, he's got stuff like that going on. I can't help to think doing that for 80 plus tactical Marines. I mean, honestly, if I were to do something like that, I probably would just put like a sheet in front of them and spray half of them one color, and then put the sheet on the other side and spray the other half the other color. And it would have to be like that simplified down, so that I didn't lose my mind. But I can definitely understand why that wouldn't be something you'd want to do across all of the army. Okay, what was I doing? Oh yeah, I was inspecting this guy to see if there were any other like super clear transition points that I could smooth out a bit. Because again, since he's the sergeant, I really want him to look good. And so that's what's happening here, is we're just going to go ahead and hit some of these rougher transition spots to hopefully muddy the boundary a little bit. So yeah, Semajolis, did you end up finishing your run of Baldur's Gate finally? I know that you'd been struggling with getting to the end because you kept wanting to theory craft your dudes, and you finally managed to get to Chapter 3 recently. Still not done? Fair enough. Since playing through my first run, I've now played through again, I think 2 more times, because I've realized that the one I was doing, I wasn't having fun. You just beat Raphael. That's a fun fight. Okay. That fight's kind of a bear unless you know what to do with it. Yep, there's the other one. Oh man, that looks so good. I'm gonna have to try that one time. I might have to buy, like, a single Alpha Legion character, or like a fist, and translate him into an Alpha Legion character. Because that just looks like a super fun painting project. Man, look at that. And you got the Dorito Dreadnought, and that's going to be a good combo. Those look so good. There's a couple ways to cheese Raphael, and they make me laugh, because people realized it pretty quickly, that even though the way it's structured, the boss fight is kind of a mother to do, there's quite a few ways to make that boss fight really, really easy. And one of them involves you doing something really stupid much earlier in the game. I don't know if you know about those, Semajolis, but I think for the honor mode run, I'm going to be a bit of a dick, and I'm going to go ahead and do that. Because it just makes me laugh so hard. You know the Susser Blooms that you can get in, what's it called? In the Underdark? You can apparently use those Susser Blooms. You can reverse pickpocket one of them into Raphael's inventory. And when you do that, it negates all of his magic when he finally fights you. So he's kind of left not being able to do anything. And then all you've got to do is beat the Cambions, which you can do by, you know, casting Orb of Invisibility on yourself, or Orb of Invulnerability on yourself, and just like walking out, slapping the crap out of one of them, and walking back in. So silly shit like that is how people have been cheesing Raphael, or by casting, like, you know, Odaluke's Irresistible Dance, so the dude has to tap dance in agony while he watches you beat him to death. It's one of those great things about D&D. Just all of these ridiculous ways to win the game. Okay. Let's see. We're gonna go ahead and continue to brighten up. Yeah, when I was putting the kit together, I had the idea to half build the front plate, then have a flat plate area on the chest for the Deredeo. I've never built the Deredeo kit. I remember thinking when I first saw it that it was one of the dumbest looking Dreadnought models, and I had no interest in it. And then I saw the plastic kit, and I went a little interested. But at that point, I was in a financial situation where buying more Warhammer was not a good idea, so I just kind of forgot about it. So I have no idea what it actually entails to build the Dorito Dreadnought. Okay, add a little bit there, add a little bit there. We want that really nice contrast to shine through. There we go. And again, all I'm really doing for this guy is outlining all the spots, all the sharp edges where a highlight would potentially happen because of the sunlight hitting it a certain way, right? And that helps really elevate and differentiate the different details on the model. And if you do it subtly enough, it just looks like light reflection, not like you're purposefully outlining parts of the model. Also, finally got a chance to order the Alpha Legion transfer ship, so my LGS ordered 2 of those. Finally, yeah, right? I don't know what's going on with their supply chain issues because I haven't been following it that closely. But it really does seem like Games Workshop grew far faster than anticipated. And good for them, I suppose, but it's definitely making it harder for people to get a foothold in the arm or into the game unless they're playing as just straight basic Ultramarines or whatever, because so many of the kits are just kind of out of stock. Even their newer stuff is out of stock, and that's kind of depressing. But I get it. It's like, you know, they can't exactly pivot on a dime with production. And the worst thing you can do as a company is print too much and then be left holding all this extra stock, because that's wasted money. So they got their business analysts and they got their strategists who are telling them what to do. I think they have no issues, and it's all a marketing tactic. I don't know. I feel like given their general business strategy that they, or at least how they've presented themselves, that they're not that kind of devious. Especially since I've never heard anything that would imply that they were. And I feel like trying to put stripes on a horse to say it's a zebra isn't really acting in the best of faith. And I mean, I guess if it's that bad, then why not just buy this stuff third party? Because if Games Workshop is going to be that awful, why keep giving them your money? I don't know. They're one of the few companies that seems to reward their employees when they're doing well, so I can't be too mad at that. And, you know, they've done everything they can to keep their production in-house so that they're not, you know, or so that they can maintain a level of quality. But that's just me. I just see how some other IPs are treated, and it just makes me think that, you know, despite their mobile game shovelware tactic, that Games Workshop seems to really want to do honestly well by their consumer base. Especially after that debacle with the pre-orders for, I think, the End of the Death Special Edition. They could have just left it be, because they already got their money, right? Like, no matter who bought it, they already got their money. And they're already pretty aware that the whales are going to buy what they're going to buy. So there was no reason for them to go back and cancel pre-orders and re-release them for pre-order and make multiple attempts to try and act in good faith. Because, yeah, you could claim it's all a PR stunt, but most companies won't even bother with that PR stunt, you know what I mean? Like when Wizards started having all their crap controversies with Dungeons and Dragons and with Magic, the best they could do was be like, "We're sorry you're upset." They really did a terrible job of trying to walk back some of their dumber ideas. Or they would walk them back and then, like, implement a slightly less bad option that sounds better, and then they would just eventually implement the bad one, you know, months down the road. And it doesn't seem like GW's been trying to do the same stuff. But then again, I think isn't Games Workshop, like, I don't want to say privately owned since they're publicly traded, but they haven't been bought out by Hasbro or Mattel or whatever other big toy company you can think of. And so they have the ability to act a little more independently compared to some of those companies. Because I feel like even though Dungeons and Dragons is on the rise right now, that they're eventually going to eat themselves alive because of what Hasbro has been doing in terms of leaning on them for quarterly profits. And that's really upsetting as someone who's been playing D&D for over 15 years at this point. But, you know, the game will survive even if the company doesn't. Indeed, they are sort of their own big company. Yeah, I remember hearing a while ago that they were like they alone were one of the biggest industries in Britain. And I don't remember the exact numbers, but I remember them being talked about and put up there with like the fishing industry. And it's like, wow, Games Workshop big. And again, I don't want to put that out there as though it's 100% true, verified, and everything. It was something that I heard offhand in a discussion, so it could be absolute bullshit. But the fact is that they're big enough to be talked about in that same sphere. Just blows my mind. Okay, I think I can't get much brighter with this specific color, so I'm going to have to start bleeding in some of the yellow into this. To me, look at the GW kits and say they shouldn't be as expensive as they are. I mean, there is a point to that, but I believe part of it is specifically because they don't outsource to China for a lot of stuff. Like, their books run about the price of a book does because they outsource it to China. And they used to do their terrain in China, but eventually pulled back and said never mind because the kits weren't up to snuff for the kind of quality they were hoping for. So everything is being produced in Great Britain in a post-Brexit world with like halfway decent wages being paid to the employees. So I would love to say that I feel like they're just kind of gouging the market, and in some ways I believe so, but I don't think it's as insidious as detractors want to say it is. They used to be a miniature distributor in the 1980s. Yeah, even earlier than that, I think. Back in like the 70s when Dungeons & Dragons and Chainmail and those kind of games were played. They were a pretty major player in that. And eventually when the Satanic Panic happened and the wargaming industry kind of went into a recession, they were like, well, we don't know what to do with all these extra minis, and so they started making their own games. And that's how like Warhammer Fantasy was born, I think. And I know it's not like a super powerful metric, but I saw someone online complaining that Nagash was way too expensive, given that like the old Nagash with the ugly skull used to be an incredibly small amount of money compared to current era Nagash. And even adjusted for inflation, I think he would be like $40, which seems obscene for a mini of that quality and of that size. Yeah, Warhammer Fantasy came first, and then Rogue Trader happened, which was the original version of Warhammer 40k, and then they expanded out further into Warhammer 40k. Because I just saw an article about that actually. Originally, Rogue Trader was basically a Dungeon Master's Guide. It had a whole bunch of things for how to make custom races and how to do things like piloting ships and whatnot that you wouldn't really care to do or be able to do in like the Warhammer board game or the Warhammer war game. They really intended for the game of Warhammer to be played as like a supplement to whatever campaign you were doing in the Rogue Trader world. But yeah, so like Nagash was, I think he was like 15 pounds or 14 pounds when he first came out. And that's, fantasy predates the Satanic Panic. Not quite. The Satanic Panic happened around the early mid 80s. Or the late 70s, early 80s. and Warhammer Fantasy came out in the early mid-'80s, I believe, as a pivot. But the thing I remember reading is that they basically realized they had all these minis that weren't selling, and they needed to find a way to market them. And that's why Warhammer Fantasy became a thing. No, the Satanic Panic is much older than that. There were stories in there was a movie called Mazes and Monsters that was one of those hokey after-school specials about the dangers of XYZ. And Mazes and Monsters was about the dangers of Dungeons and Dragons, because there had been stories of like kids performing rituals and going down into the tunnels under, I think, Michigan State or something, and one of the kids went down there and either fucking died. But kids were going down there to, have sex and do drugs, so they just decided to associate it with D&D. But anyway, Mazes and Monsters was one of those after-school specials that was supposed to show the evils of D&D and what it did to people, and Tom Hanks was the lead in that thing. And I'm pretty sure Mazes and Monsters came out in the early 80s, because it was pre-fame Tom Hanks. So it's really weird watching him try and be like a depressed, lonely kid who found solace in Dungeons and Dragons, not D&D. Mazes... Yeah, 1982. So the Satanic Panic stuff happened prior to 82, because that's where they had time to, write and produce that thing. Warhammer Fantasy was established in... Oh, come on, tell me when it first came out. C also? No, I don't want any of this. I just want to know when it started, because they don't have a date on here. Development of the setting began with the release of a game simply called Warhammer in 83. So yeah, they had like anything violent being planned on video games. Yeah, that was a thing that started in the 90s as games became more graphic. So like I was very much right at that age where I was starting to see that stuff, like Mortal Kombat being a thing, and Doom and Duke Nukem. But yeah, so Warhammer Fantasy was started in 83, Mazes and Monsters came out in 82, and the Satanic Panic at that point was in like full swing. What's really funny is someone found it a while ago, but there was like a propaganda video for the evils of comic books in the 50s and 60s, and the news article for it was an absolute riot, because it definitely talked about how there was lurid depictions of graphic violence and torture and sex in the comic books of the 50s, and it convinced kids and it encouraged kids to rove around in violent gangs and assault people and rob people. And they had all this great like B-roll footage of kids, shoving each other and reading these comic books. And it's an older, scareder generation playing on the fears of the ignorant, unfortunately. But yeah, that's always been a thing. Back in the early 1900s, reading in general was considered the same way. There were definitely warnings about the sky falling and the collapse of Western morality because of reading as a thing, as opposed to praying or doing labor or whatever it was. So, just every time there's a moral outrage, I kind of shrug my shoulders over forms of entertainment. Because I haven't even been alive for a lot of them, but they all follow the exact same pattern. Definitely the church trying to keep power. Well, I mean, for a long time, it wasn't until very recently that the church fell out of being like a major part of one's social life, right? Because it's actually something that like the Islamic religion and to some extent the Jewish religion do, that we don't quite understand, that like the Christian West doesn't quite understand, is that it's not just a thing you go to on Sundays as an obligation. It's an everyday part of your life. right? It's more ingrained than just that thing I've got to do once a week. So that's what church used to be until the country just started becoming increasingly secular. And that didn't start happening until like the 1960s. So when old established society started seeing that their grip on society was slipping, they panicked. Uh-oh. Well, I'm back. I don't know what's going on with the camera. I don't know what's going on with camo, because it's normally been working, and today it's deciding to be real fucky. Though, in all seriousness, or in all honesty, like, I had a bunch of technological issues this morning as I tried to set this up. I was actually supposed to start at around... Oh my goodness, it's 9:46 already? I was supposed to start at around, like, 8:30. But I kept having issues with the sound, so... it didn't work. Actually, for anyone who's still in here, can you do a test for me, please? I got the alerts working, I think. Can someone just, like, unfollow and then refollow? I want to see if it's working. I heard supposedly there was some solar flares yesterday. I mean, that could do it. I don't know. I don't know the correlation causation of like, what the sun does to our electronics, though I do know that there is definitely some correlation. Hell yeah, it works. Thank you, appreciate it. I didn't realize I had to import it as a thing. That makes me so happy. For those of you who don't know, there is a YouTube, like, 10-minute anime called Punch Punch Forever, and it's made by someone named Speedaroo. And Speedaroo definitely has an alternate reputation as a naughty artist. Asking for follows seems I'll have to unfollow you for that. Fair enough. But he made, like, a tribute to the old Yu Yu Hakusho era of anime called Punch Punch Forever, and it's got this great, like, cheap import found footage recorded on the VHS aesthetic, but it's also got the most unhinged humor I've ever seen. So, I heckin' love it, and I suggest anyone who wants to see, like, 1990s aesthetic anime combined with incredibly unhinged, weird humor to give Punch Punch Forever a try. Because it's legitimately very funny. Though I did definitely love, when I first talked about it and I first posted it on my Facebook, one of my friends who's a little younger than me was like, Benry, I just want to make sure you know that who you are posting and what that person does for a living. Because I don't want you posting unfiltered porn on your Facebook account. And, no, it wasn't. It's his work safe-ish persona that he put out. So, yeah, it's really funny. I have some other alerts squirreled away in there, so eventually, they will be revealed as more people do more things with it. But I got really tired of missing alerts, especially because... Uh-oh, they're at my camera again. Why does my camera keep flickering? Oh well. Especially because, I got raided like 3 or 4 times over the past couple days, and I only knew about it because chat told me. And that's really frustrating. So now I should have some alerts to show that off, and eventually, I'll have, like, an actual setting to play around with. But first I need to find someone to do the art for me. Well, I need my wife to free up her time to do the art. Have you tried unplugging it and plugging it back in again? Yes, actually. That's what I did initially to get it working, but I'm gonna give that a shot in just a second after I finish hitting these highlights on this boy. And yeah, that was going to be my next thing if it kept flickering like that. Okay, let's see. I'm going to turn off the display for a second, because the last thing you guys need to see is my desktop. We're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to deactivate Camo Studio. Go to that for a second. And then we're going to reactivate Camo Studio. It's going to find Camo Studio. I'm going to put you back up in here, and we shall see if that fixed the problem. Say one thing it did do is mess up the autofocus. Okay. Boom. There we go. Hopefully that'll keep it stable. And hopefully that's going to still be in focus. Okay. But yeah, it's almost 10 o'clock right now, I think. It's 9:51, so at around 11, possibly noon, I'm going to go ahead and call it for the day. But I've been having a lot of fun streaming, and I don't really have a whole lot else lined up, so I figured, you know what? Why not go online and paint? But yeah, have you painted Custodes before? I feel like the answer is yes, but I don't remember. And if you haven't, then good luck, because there's definitely some trials and tribulations to getting those guys done if you want them to look good. Technically, yes. Okay, then you already know what I'm talking about. Darcy Bono actually found a really good strategy for painting gold, and I kind of want to try it, but it's not in a style that I paint in, so what I might do is, if I find myself getting frustrated with how my Custodes are looking, is I might go back and strip them all, and then repaint them in the style that she's shown. But if you haven't seen it, she posted a new video. She uses, like, I think it's, I'm actually not going to do gold armor. Oh, very cool. What colors are you going to use for your Custodes? But yeah, she uses a silver, like a gunmetal silver spray prime, and then uses one of the Army Painter speed paints that's not metallic. I don't remember what color it is, but it's like kind of a darker yellow. And when she puts it over the silver, it does a really good job of emulating the gold that you would see on like Custodes. And because it's got the really dark shadows, it gets really orange and concentrated in some areas. And in others, it gets really nice and bright. There's a similar style for Alpha Legion to get the metallic look. Like a metallic base coat and then a speed paint. I mean, it's brilliant. I think it's really smart. And my initial disdain for speed paints have like waned as I've seen people do incredibly creative things with it. It's like, maybe I was too harsh on you. Because clearly you're a lot cooler than I thought. And so I'm really glad that that's happened. Going for the black armor? Oh, that's going to look really cool. Something I kind of love about the Custodes is that their armor is so awesome that if you decide to go with a non-gold scheme, it's going to end up looking freaking amazing just because there's so much detail in it. Okay. Okay, we're going to go ahead and hit that with some of the bright yellow. Yeah. There we go, just a little bit of these highlights. My favorite method for metallics is to spray silver from above. Might make some red and some hot color. Very cool, yeah. No, I mean, I guess the same thing, right? It creates the metallic reflection, the metallic sheen at the very top. And that's what allows you to have some real fun with it. Okay, I might have gone a smidgen too bright. On some of these spots. Then I'll undercoat with like a light purple. Yeah, that's a great look. It's impressive how much a different colored shadow can really make, you know, any color stand out. For the Custodes, you're going to do a cool undercoat. That should look really good. And I mean, based on what you've shown from your other stuff, you're gonna knock it out of the ballpark. I have no doubt. Just white in the middle. Oh, that's gonna be a nice contrast. Okay, speaking of contrast, I forgot to do some of the highlights here. I need to get a new brush to use for some of this because this one does not come to a sharp enough point anymore. That's kind of been my biggest fault, is that I never know when I'm supposed to replace the brush, but this one definitely has lost its tip. Okay. I'm now working with a considerably less sharp tip on this brush than I had. But I suppose that's okay. It's working out fine for now. I feel like they always say, like, you need to have a good tool to be better at whatever skill you're trying to learn. And I believe in that wholeheartedly. But I think at the same time, once you have the basics down, working with a bad tool or a subpar tool is only going to make you better, because you have to really focus on your technique to compensate for the, lack of help that you're getting from the tool you're using. I'm not going to claim to be, like, great with my knife work, but I know for a fact that my knife work is better than it could have been because I've had to learn proper cutting technique due to having shitty knives in college. And so I'm not saying everyone should train that way. It's definitely helped me be better at some of the things I do, because I can't just rely on the quality of the tool to cover up for any of my deficiencies. I'm excited for all my bikes to come in. Yeah, that's going to be really neat once you got those. You're going to have a whole freaking army of gold, I guess they're going to be black in your case, but just these awesome, pimped out bikes. I need to paint mine. I've had mine, I think I mentioned it before, but I've had them just kind of sitting over in the corner, and they don't even have heads on them, because I was going to paint the helmets individually. I think I've had this Custodes Combat Patrol now for a couple years, and it's been sitting there unfinished. So it's going to have to be a priority at some point. Unfortunately, shit just keeps coming out, and I keep wanting to paint it. Okay, I think, by and large, I'm going to give him one last look over, but I think, by and large, I've hit all of the major points on him. And I don't think I have any more that I have to hit to get that at highlight. And now, I think I'm going to go to... I love the new Captain model for the Custodes. I love how it's both obviously new and exciting and has, like, the right scale and the right look, but at the same time, because of how squat it is due to the wide mantle that it's got, it really evokes, like, old school Warhammer models. And I've heard some people really hate it because it's so squat and funky looking. But I don't know, I disagree. My first thought was, man, that looks goofy. And then the more I looked at it, I realized, no, this thing is brilliant. Whoever designed this really knew what they were doing. So kudos to them for managing to do a throwback. And I think they mentioned that that was kind of like a big part of 10th edition. And what 10th edition, you look at it and see a BA. I'm not sure if you mean Blood Angel or Badass, but yeah, he's really freaking cool looking. I don't know, Semijolies, did you see the announcements for number 2? Yeah. Have you seen the announcements for the new Orc stuff and the new Custodes stuff? I think his pose is powerful. Okay, give me a second, because I actually just posted in my Discord the new army models, or the new army thingies, so give me a second. Well, I posted them in chat. Give me a second. So, nope, I posted the other one in Discord because it is a Custodes. Nope, that's not what I want. Okay, we're gonna open that link. And then I'm gonna open this link. I'm gonna go here. And window capture is going to show, yep, that's exactly what I want, so boom. Those are the new Custody models, or the new Custodes army. And if we zoom in just a smidgen, you can see dead center above the word Custodes, we got the new captain. And he's got like a Melta-Spear, which in itself is really freaking cool. But yeah, he's a really good looking dude. All of these look really good. I'm really excited. Can I? Yeah, okay, that did it. And on the other side, we have a new Orc army box. And it comes with a freaking Stompa. And it also has a new mech boy, a new mech boss. And he looks freaking amazing. So it comes with, I think, 10 Ludas / Burnas, 10 boys, a mech boss, a truck, and a Stompa. You'll have to figure out what color to do with the capes and the cloaks. Red always goes well with black. Purple goes well with black. Actually, honestly, anything goes well with black just because it's a good neutral color to accent off of. I'm going to make this much smaller so that hopefully I'll eventually find the browser window. There's the browser window. Okay, so yeah, I'm pretty excited with all of this new stuff that's coming out. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to switch out the laundry real quick, so I will be right back. One moment, I'm gonna be right back, mute the mic, and I'll be right back, guys. Okay, I'm back. Vibrant pink sakura-like cloaks with green-like veins all over the cloth like a tapestry. That's gonna look really cool. I hope you do, because against like the black and the white, that's gonna look fantastic. Excuse me. Okay, so let's see. I don't know why the little Lipo dude ain't working. Something else went wrong. I don't really care. But, what was I doing? Oh, yeah. But yeah, so I'm sorry the little talky guy is not talking. I'll have to figure that out eventually. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to take some time today to really mess with Blender and figure out how to re-render this character, because to be completely honest, I'm not super happy with how he looks. And I think some of that has to do with coloring. I'm tempted to do a bright pink for the power weapons. It'll be definitely unique, and I think you should. Because people, the only time I ever see pink used is for like chaos. And like their plasma weapons. And even then it's like a really rich reddish pink. So doing like a bright pink for it should look really good. Especially against everything else you want to do with them. Okay, I've talked about this before, but it is important for anyone watching this for some advice. As you go brighter, cover less area. Because the more area you cover with the brighter color, the less convincing it looks. You're just trying to create points of concentrated light. So don't go overboard with your brightest color highlights. You're actually just going to make it look worse if you do. And that is my knowledge for today. Or sisters. Yeah, but even then, sisters, I mean, typically with the color palette, sisters will be pink, which is true. You tend to see a lot of, like, Hello Kitty stuff, but I mean more with, like, the power weapons themselves. I tend to see it most with Chaos. With, like, Chaos Marines, because their plasma tends to either be, like, a bright pink, or it tends to be a bright red. So yeah, I love seeing pink in unconventional places. Okay. There we go. But yep. I'm just gonna keep working on this guy. I think by and large that side is done, so I'm gonna move over here and start hitting some of the little bitty bob bits. I really should have. There we go. That'll be enough. Gonna hit some of that. Hit these little corners. Just do little minor bits. Hopefully the camera hasn't bugged out again. I haven't really looked at it because I've been kind of zeroed in on hitting these spots. I finally found a place for my camera to be where I don't feel like I'm hitting it, and I can hold the Mini up as close as I need to. And I guess between the increased clarity from the update and just having a decent camera, it's done a lot to allow me to really, really get close up to the model and figure out what I'm doing. You're unfortunately going to have to work, so you can't stare. You will fortunately have to work, so you can't stare at the screen. That's perfectly fine. I don't expect you guys to have rapt attention while I'm painting. That is definitely not the most exciting thing to do unless you're like taking notes. But it doesn't look like I'm not seeing any flickering, so I think whatever power issue, connection issue it was having got resolved by unplugging it, then plugging it back in. Okay. Yeah, this is turning out to be pretty okay. Just a little bit of a smidgen right there. Heck yeah. You gotta find a way to normalize the audio on some of these, because this track is definitely a whole lot louder than the previous ones we were listening to. Okay, do that. Move into hitting some of the high spots here. Low spot down there. There we go. Okay, yeah, that is getting louder. And it looks like the mic is also catching all of the jostling from the dryer over on the other side of the basement. Yeah, it definitely is. Very, very barely. I don't know if it's audible on your guys' speakers, but it's definitely being caught by the audio mixer, and I think that's kind of silly. Especially because I just need to add some more noise dampening down here, which I can do probably by just hanging a sheet or something separating the two parts of the basement. Okay, do a little bit more of this up here, just ever so lightly touching these parts. And what that should do is provide some decent highlights of this bright color against that. Again, at the elbow, same thing. I don't want to overdo it. Just want to have the ever slightest dot to draw your eye through the transition up to the highest spots. And now the leg be done. So I guess I'm going to move up to the arm. And again, same thing, nothing too difficult, nothing too saturation, or not saturation, no, not too much coverage. That's what I'm trying to get at. I didn't get all my combat patrol built since I have a game today, but I don't know which of my two armies I'll do. You should flip a coin. And then choose the one that the coin doesn't land on. I was supposed to have a game yesterday, but unfortunately the person who was going to play me bowed out because of exhaustion from the week. So didn't get to do that. Instead I got to stream. And then after streaming I got to wind down and just kind of not think for a little while. Because unfortunately, doing all of the studying I'm doing is really starting to fry my brain a bit. So I'm trying to make sure that I still have those like rests in between so I don't accidentally short circuit or whatever. Okay, I think that's pretty good. I hit this ever so lightly. Hit that ever so lightly. At the top, hit that. Okay. Oh, I forgot to turn off the pre-roll ads. Dang-a-rang. Oh well, that's something I'll do later. So, I think I mentioned it last time, but I've decided I'm going to disable the pre-roll ads and just have mid-roll ads at some point. I'm getting awfully tired of them. Good morning, MTG Ranger, how's it going? It's a Saturday morning. I woke up at 6 a.m. again. I really don't want to get started on my chores until after lunch, so I'm streaming. How's your morning been? It's been okay for me. Like I said, woke up real early because my body's kind of programmed into it now, and so I decided to be a little bit more productive on the hobby side of things because I was going to paint anyway, and I figured why not stream as well. So that is what I'm doing. Okay, we're gonna be very careful and hit only the top of the knuckles right here. But yeah, I went ahead before stream, while I was still trying to troubleshoot some of the electricity issues I was having. I went ahead and based the Death Shroud Bodyguard that I finished last time. And now he's sitting down there with Typhus and with his buddy. So now I'm working on this Sergeant and doing everything in my power to not overdo it with these highlights, because that's something that I have a consistent struggle with. Okay, some of that, do some of that, do some of that. Do some of that, just a little bit in the corner right down there. Upper corner, upper corner, upper corner. I also rearranged the, the camera a bit so it's not constantly underneath my head or over my head and getting knocked. So I can get much closer to the model without hitting anything. And that just feels great. Because that's been my biggest complaint about streaming, is that I can't paint anywhere near as effectively on stream as I can off, simply because I can't get as close to the model and I'm very nearsighted. So having this extra range to be able to actually like lean in and see what I'm doing much more clearly is definitely going to make my painting even more gooder. Okay, no, that got hit. I'm gonna go ahead and hit this right here. That right there. I think all that's left to do in terms of this detail work is to hit the top up here. And again, as I've mentioned before, I'm at the highest point of the highlight, so I just want itty-bitty details. I don't want to re-panel line everything, because then it'll end up just looking like strange outlines. I think I've decided what you're going to do for basing of the custodies. Very cool. I ended up printing out custom bases, or base toppers for mine, that were supposed to be like Imperial Marble, or Imperial Flagstone. And I'm not sure if I like how it turned out, but at this point it's kind of way too late to change it, so I'm just sticking with it. So it is what it is. Okay, I think I'm done with all of the green and yellow on him. I think that I'm happy with how all that turned out, so I guess the next thing to do is to go ahead and hit all of the metal. And then eventually I'll get to all the gross organics, and hopefully it'll turn out really good. So I'm going to put him down for a second. Rub my eyes. Stretch a bit. And let's go ahead and add some... Let's go back to this. It's Galvorback Red and Vallejo Model Color Bright Orange. It's what I've been using for my my base coat. And it's what's giving these guys a really great rusted appearance. So I'm just going to go back to that, add it to the paint palette, and we're going to hit all of the trim with it. And the Scythe. Now, I'm forgetting exactly what they're called. I think the ones that the standard Death Shroud are carrying is called a Plague Reaper, and I believe the one that the captain is, or the sergeant is carrying, is called a Man Reaper. So that's what's happening with these guys. Because like this one, this is the one I just finished yesterday, and I was able to get him. You'll probably buy cork tile and rip them apart and make them look like they're standing on the edge of a cliff. That's going to be really cool. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, my camera froze again. Oh, it's not connected anymore. That's no good. And now it is connected. I don't know, guys. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, so that's kind of what I did here. I gave them, like, I guess it's supposed to look like concrete. But yeah, I think that is a Man Reaper, or a Plague Reaper. And this one is a Man Reaper. And that's supposed to be the difference. But yeah. Scrap code? Probably. I'm obviously not, you know, reciting my canticles to the Omnissiah well enough. But okay, let's go ahead and add some of this together. And this will create a really nice, odd, like, rusty color that I can now put on all of the metallic trim. Of this model, which I can then slowly build up to that tremendous looking, like, angry red rust that you've seen on the other guys. And honestly, it's probably become like my favorite rust color to do, just because it's so loud. It's like by far one of the loudest colors I've done, and I think it looks absolutely great. So I'm probably going to end up copying that recipe for quite a few other angry rusty things when I get around to it. Oh, there it goes again. Camera work. That's extra strange because I turned off my VPN client specifically so that everything would stay connected. I was having a struggle with keeping things connected via Camo Studio, and I found out it's because my my VPN clients were causing them to not sync up. Yep, that's off. It should be off on my phone too. Oops. There went my... I dropped my paintbrush. One moment. Okay, there we go. Got it. At the very least, it looks like I'm not having problems staying connected. Which was another issue for why I didn't stream for like a month, is because I couldn't get the damn connection to stay stable. So, thankfully, that is no longer an issue. And now when I want to stream, I just need to make sure everything else is working, apparently. Okay. Go ahead and hit that again. Oh yeah, he's got slightly more decorated armor because he is of higher rank. I never did quite understand what these huge gouges were supposed to be. Is that like flesh that's trying to burst its way out of the armor? because it definitely doesn't have that, like, gelatinous look that a lot of the flesh does on the Death Guard. So I've just kind of been treating it as, like, scabrous wounds and whatnot for the, that has caused the armor to burst, or just, like, rusty under armor. And actually, I think I can solve this problem pretty quickly by just looking it up. But, you know, that would require effort. Give me a second. I'm going to hold him up here, and he's going to do a little dance while I look up exactly what is this stuff that's bursting out of their armor. Those are Chaos Knights. As much as I like them, I don't need them right now. Death Guard. Where is the Death Shroud? There they are. They've got to still have a 360 spin of them, right? They haven't gotten rid of that? Oh no, they did. And I can't see it anywhere. Oh, that's obnoxious. Oh wait, there it is. I was about to say, they've got them all positioned so I can't see. Oh, I guess it is supposed to be flesh. It's definitely a lot redder and angrier, but it looks like it is indeed supposed to be flesh coming off of the side. So that's what's. Where is Camo Studio? There it is. Blisters and boils, kind of. Based on how it's painted, it's definitely a little darker than the exposed flesh of their face, but it definitely looks like it's meant to be some kind of gross, angry flesh. So I'm going to paint it with this same rust color, and instead of going up with an orange, I'm probably going to go up with like a pink to the regular flesh color. But I think because of how angry this looks, it's going to work out color-wise for me. But yeah, that's one of the things that I thought was kind of funny, and is, I think, an interesting complaint about how they did New Death Guard when they reintroduced the line. Because old pictures of Death Guard, they're very much just kind of rotting and falling apart. Which is definitely a way to take it, and I think it's a great way to take it, because they're supposed to be the zombie Marines, right? But, with New Death Guard, when they came out, they kind of toned down the entrails falling out aspect of it, and made it more so that they had like these extra like eldritch growths and more tentacles and more you know, bulging flesh. And I honestly like it, but it was really interesting seeing some grognards argue about it, because there is clearly a divergence and a pivot with how they were depicted in the art. The old ones just kind of looked like huge rotting hulks, and the new ones have a little bit more life to them. And I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I do know it led to this model, so it can't be that bad. Okay. Because this is one of my favorite Death Guard models. I'm gonna hit that. Gonna hit that. This one burst, which I think is kind of cool. And that should work okay for what I'm doing. Cool, 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 cool. Oh yeah, he's also got that leather on him. They actually gave him those leather, like, bits under the shoulder, which the other ones are missing. But that's not a huge deal. Okay, so that's flesh. That's flesh. Oh, that's just, like, organs and shit falling out of his side. You're gonna get the fleshy color. At least to the best of my ability. These bells are hanging on metal, so they're gonna get like the fleshy rot color. I think the handle to the chimes is made out of wood, so that's gonna continue being, that's gonna get like a woody color. We're gonna take that and hit some of that. And actually I just hit his finger, so we're gonna get rid of that. There we go. Just use some of that extra water to wick that off. Get it under here. And I think for the bells, I'm going to use the same base rust underneath, but then I'm going to go with a more gold looking, like a more rusted over gold look. And hopefully it'll turn out okay. We shall see. Same thing here. Let's get more of that on there. That was too watered down. But yeah, I really can't lie to myself about it anymore. I have just way too much fun painting the Death Guard. They have so many details. I think this is one of Games Workshop's best lines of, like, army models. They just have so much going on, and they look so cool. If anyone is thinking about getting an army, and it does that Space Marine thing too, because it's got a lot of the same basic shapes, which makes it not difficult to paint, but they've got so much extra detail in there that you could have a lot of fun, like, painting out the details on these guys and giving them a whole lot more personality. So I think they absolutely nailed it. There's not too much trim on them, as there is with, like, Chaos Marines, where it becomes intimidating to paint. I think they've got just enough going on with these guys. And I think that's absolutely fantastic. Okay, we're going to go with the rusty nails. And now that I'm done from that diversion, I'm going to go back to painting the parts I was working on. Oh, I forgot about his tummy trim. Going to go back and hit that too. Okay, and something that I found out that I didn't realize I could do was for some of the rusty bits, like the chainmail. I thought I was going to have to paint the chainmail back over with, like, a black and then try and do the rust effects on top of it. And it turns out, no. It works perfectly well if you just take some watered down... Whoops, there's no water in there anymore. You take some just watered down, like, base color that I've been using and just kind of gently brush it over parts of the chainmail. And because it's got that kind of, like, dark maroon orangey tint to it, it works perfectly well as, like, a stained rust look. So I'm pretty jazzed about that because it's less specific work I've got to do. And it ends up looking just as good. Okay, a little bit in here. A little bit in that. I'm going to have to listen to this playback and see if the music is too loud. Because it definitely feels like it in my ear, but that could just be the volume of the headphones I'm wearing. If you guys can still hear me okay, then everything's hunky-dory and I don't have to worry about it anymore. Okay, that's going to be fine, that's going to be fine. I'm kind of surprised, of all things, they didn't bother, like, printing out the indentation of the metal trim right here, but whatever. Okay. Mix a little more of that orange. And honestly, base coating these in a purple was a really good idea because it works really nicely as a shadow color. So I definitely can't be too mad about that. Okay. Gotta be a little more gentle here. Just kind of bracing my pinky against the model and flicking only at the fingers to try and hit some of these spots. I don't know if you can really see it on the camera, probably not because it's obscured, but I'm just like bracing, I'm constantly bracing against myself, and that's what's giving me the steady enough hand to do some of these more like ultra specific lines. And that's been kind of a huge upgrade to my painting, is learning how to do that. And it feels kind of silly because it feels way too precise, but it works. It does a really good job of steadying your hand so you don't have to worry about, like you can see it right there, I can't hit a mark. But if I've got something to brace it against, whether it's my other hand or whether it's the model itself, it allows me to have a lot more clarity and a lot more stability. So I'm pretty darn jazzed about that. Oh goodness, I forgot that was also part of the green armor, so I'm going to have to go back and hit that with the greens. There we go. This little Vox thing. Okay, let's go back and hit this with like a dark green, then a not dark green, then a light green. Okay, so this little spot right here should have been painted over, and I neglected to do so. Shame on me. But again, bracing my pinky against the back so that my fingers are a whole lot more steady as I try and paint this very tiny spot on his neck. Okay, so same thing. Just a little bit brighter up there. Neat. And I'm actually going to have to let that dry because now I've done too much. Okay, next is going to be the trim on his arms, I think. Because we got that. That's all leather that I'll work with later. I've done enough of this, I think, to make it look appropriately rusted. There we go. So yeah, I guess the trim on his arms is going to be next. On his armor. His armor. I'm sorry. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and hit some of this. And I've been making all of their plague spewers kind of the same color, which is that same, like, warm orange rust. And I think it's good. I think it looks okay. I have had some considerations of painting it back over with more of a silver metal, like a gunmetal look to it. But I like the idea that their shit's so heavily corroded that everything is turning this angry orange rust color. So I think that's what I'm going to stick with. Okay, there we go. The Sonic franchise has such an iconic sound to it. Like, that's a big reason why I chose this music, is, I honestly was never too huge a fan of the games themselves, but the music in the games just consistently slaps so hard. And I can't remember the name of the individual who did this. I'll have to post it once I get it, but he did all of these, like, lo-fi remixes, and he made sure to give them a really strong early 90s aesthetic. And so this is purely old man edification, like late or millennial edification. But I'm just really enjoying hearing some of the sounds that they've added into these songs that are just emblematic of late 80s, early 90s hip-hop. This song in particular has it. It's got like the little cowbell going off. That noise in particular was huge. That one too. It's just got that like really dirty feeling of that era of hip hop, and I dig it so hard. Okay, same thing with the rest of this. I'm just kind of going through and hitting it with this dark base coat so that I can eventually move up and continue making everything increasingly brighter to show parts where the rust is being hit by the light. And of course, none of this has to be super precise. All it really needs to do is, convey that this area has been touched by corrosion. Because eventually, as it gets filled in, your eyes will kind of do a lot of the work for me. And especially since it's Death Guard, it's meant to look rotted and kind of broken down, any discoloration will look like it belongs, if you know what I mean. So I'm not overly worried about hitting every last little spot and getting a real unified color. Okay. Did I accidentally made part of his pauldron green, or part of his trim green. That's okay. We're going to go ahead and turn that back to the proper rust color it's supposed to be. Oh, there it is again. Gosh, these sounds. Hit that. Okay. Okay. And something that I continually need to remind myself, because I'm actually pretty bad about it, is to take my time with my brush strokes. Because it gives a chance for the flow of the paint to catch up with whatever you're working on. If you go too quickly, it's not going to have a chance to actually transfer to the model smoothly, and you're just kind of hurting yourself. So by making your brush strokes more deliberate, you give the paint a chance to actually move on to the piece. At least that's what it feels like. I have no idea how technically accurate that is, but I've just noticed the more I'm deliberate and the more I slow down and let the brush travel across instead of flicking it wildly to try and speed up, it tends to create better brush strokes. So take that advice with a grain of salt. Okay, and honestly, I don't need to be as precise as I am, because everything else around this is going to get painted over with a dark color anyway. It's all going to be hidden. Okay. Let's see, what am I working on here? We're going to go ahead and add some more color variance to that. Add a little bit of color variance to that. Looks like I want to finish his arm up. That's where I want to go, and it looks like I missed yet another spot of armor. He's got this little bit of his elbow joint that's showing off in there. Oh wow, just looking over on camera and seeing how much more color he's showing and how much this color is popping. Really life-affirming. Okay. Let's go ahead and be that guy and stop what I'm doing right in the middle of it so I can just get this slightest little bit of exposed armor. And while I'm at it, I can go back and hit this now because it's sat long enough and it's been allowed to dry. Okay. So once again, diminishing areas of coverage to allow the model to kind of breathe. And to let some of these colors breathe. You just want small areas covered to show that there is a gradual increase from dark to light as we get more light shone on the individual parts. And if it gets done right, it'll look real professional and stuff. Yeah, back to my basing line of thinking. I was going to do that so the Dawn Eagle jet bikes would just hover over the ground and ramp off into the abyss. Yeah, so they got that kind of like going off the ramp look to them. That's going to look really cool when you're done with it. That was my thought too, is it just made it look like they were all lined up on the edge of like a parapet or something, and they were just about to like jump down into battle superhero style. In my case, for my guys, they're all kind of running across the courtyard was my idea. But the idea of having them all leap into battle is definitely really, really cool. I forgot about his leg armor. Like, at the very top of the thigh piece. Yet another sound that was iconic to the 90s and 80s, but lost in time as people stopped using it. So we got that little bit of trim right there. And I think, yep, there's some over here too for me to hit as well. If you have any inclination to try and do non-metallic metal, start with small trim before you start trying to move into large pieces, because it's a lot easier to lie about light hitting it on small pieces than it is on large pieces. Though this piece right now is just giving me all sorts of energy, because there's so much going on in here that I can really play with once I actually start layering it up. This one's a lot more flat and a little more boring, but the other side has some like wrinkles and bumps in it, and some creases and folds that are going to be really fun to mess with when I start trying to highlight it, and hopefully will show out real nicely. Of course, that's all contingent on me doing it right, so I suppose we'll find out. Okay, what was I doing? Where was I going? What's happening? Oh yeah. Get that little bit right there. And again, kind of the beauty of doing this rust is even if I don't get really good coverage across the entire bit, it's still going to look pretty okay, because it's all just inconsistent due to it decaying and rusting over. I found out the hard way that painting Space Marines proper is a lot harder than painting these guys, because the color consistency just has to be so much tighter. Which is fair, I should have expected that, but you know, learning new things. Like that as well. And I think that means everything below the shoulders is done. So let's go ahead and get these pauldrons done, shall we? Something I love so much about 40K is just how ridiculous the shoulders are. I think a joke has been made about the Adrax Agatone mini that dude can't see what the hell he's shooting, because his pauldrons are just so big that he's basically trying to look over, you know, an entire beach ball. And I get it, he's still one of my favorite models. I still think he's got a badass pose. I don't really care that it looks silly. Warhammer 40K looks silly. Okay, I can't really see what's going on here. I'm assuming that... yeah, I'm losing a lot of coverage here because I put it on too thin, so we're going to re-hit some of that. Same with right here. There we go. And again, I can leave some of that purple in the recesses because that's just going to represent the deep shadows. What I need to do, though, is I think this wet palette is running out of wet. And so my paints are starting to dry, which is making them cover worse. So I think I'm actually going to need to have to add more water in a second. Because otherwise I'm going to keep having this issue where I put on paint and it immediately dries too thin because there's just not enough going on there. So I'm going to do that. I've actually made a mix because I got tired. I'm really lazy about my paint palette, and I definitely leave water in it for way too long, and it's kind of lost its anti-molding properties, anti-mildew. So what I've been doing, and I don't know how well this works, is I've been adding a little bit of IPA in with the water that I use to soak the pad. And I do know it seems to be making the water evaporate quicker, which is, you know, makes sense. But at the same time, I hope that it's also acting as something of an antibacterial agent and preventing the water from, you know, molding. But of course, I was an English teacher. My understanding of biology is not super great, beyond like the high school level. So I have no clue if I'm actually doing anything or if I'm just wasting IPA. I suppose I'll find out the next time I clean this off. Okay, same thing here, and you can see it that there's just a lot of very thin paint going on here that's not getting great coverage, but that's okay. It looks like I think I've basically finished doing all of the metal on the model itself, except for our lovely Scythe. And I'm actually going to switch over to a slightly bigger brush to hit the Scythe because I can afford to. There's a lot more room on this Scythe that needs to be covered. And I can afford to be a lot sloppier with it, so I'm just going to go ahead and cover the entire thing in this rust color. And then if I didn't do a good job, I'll just cover it again, because I'm going to have to cover it twice anyway, so why bother being ultra precise when you're not going to do it right first? Well, it's not going to get done super effectively in the first round. Same thing up there, cover all that, cover all that. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Hit that. Actually, we're going to hit that. I think in this case, I've been making this thing kind of the same color, the sensor that's built in, but I think I'm going to try and give it, like, a really dark metallic look. Like a brownish, and let it stay that way. So like it's completely crusted and corroded over, and then add some green tint to it, and maybe that'll make it look really sickly and diseased. I don't know, and I suppose I will find out. Get all that. And I'll be honest, I'm going to be a little lazy here. This obviously was put on real wet, and so I'm going to take a hairdryer, and I'm going to hit this real quick off camera. So just give me a moment. And it'll be back in a second, as it all dries off. Yep. Yeah, it's definitely going through that phase of, like, puddling where I laid it on way too thick. And the parts where it's drying out don't look like I got anywhere near enough coverage. So it's going to need another layer, and that should be fine. I'm not super worried about it. Unfortunately, I think because I lost the moisture in the wet palette, the paint itself has kind of lost some of its quality. So I'm not getting as good a coverage as I was a minute ago. But that's okay. That's why I'm doing more than one layer. At the very least, the two thin coats method means that I'm not going to get as much, you know, kludgy, chalky looking paint. Which, as well as that would work texturally in this case, it's not what I'm going for. I want some of this to be smooth. Gonna get that orange mixed in there with that, I guess, magenta-ish. Mix that in. Mix all that in. Yeah, this paintbrush is basically toast after this. This is all it's going to be good for. Another reason I'm thinking of doing the cliff face is it'll be easy to dry brush. You can sand the bottom of the plastic base flat and paint it black for paint, or paint it like water, I don't know, but then make the custody stand much taller and more in charge. Yeah, it's going to look real good. The custody stands for the bikes are definitely a good size for that kind of thing, because they're really long. And so wherever you decide to place them on the stand, you can have a lot of wiggle room with what you're actually doing with the model and what story you're trying to tell via the base. So you've got plenty of flexibility there. Okay. There we go. Okay, now that that color's a little more consistently on there, and you can see adding, like, having this inconsistent mixture of orange and this magenta has really made everything look like it's rusting really awkwardly, and that's really what I want. But yeah, for like the custodies, give me a second. Like with no head. Like I printed these 3D printed. Whoops! I printed these 3D printed bases out. And honestly, they don't look that great because I used FDM and it came off really kind of stringy, which is fine. But there's definitely enough room to like have the custody launching off and have the first half of this look like it's like rock face. And you can definitely put the stand up even higher and add some more cork board to really make it look like he's launching off into whatever you want him to launch off into. I've really got to get these guys painted. Now that I looked at them, I'm feeling real guilty that I haven't. Okay, so is there anything else metallic on him that needs to be painted up to look metallic? The chainmail looks okay. No, I think I hit everything I need to. Time to intimidate my roommates with an elite army of my own. Fair enough, man. Just be warned that they don't handle excuse me, they don't handle tanks very well. The custodies don't have a lot of things to deal with heavy arms. Like, they used to, back when everything was capped at 8, but because they raised the ceiling, and they didn't really raise the strength profiles of the Custodian's weapons. A lot of their stuff, you think the bikes will do fine? I don't know. I guess if you can get enough +1s to wound, you'll be okay, but I don't think the bikes have anything powerful enough to crack like a Lehman Russ hull. Okay, the next thing, I think, is just the straight orange. I could be wrong, but I remember that being a problem when my students were trying to play the Custodies, is that they just didn't have anything strong enough to deal with, like, an Onager Dune Crawler. And it just created too many problems. Of course, this was all in, like, Combat Patrol, so I have no idea how all that's going to work out in, like, an actual standard game. But yeah, like, their salvo launchers are Strength 9, I believe? Or Strength 8, and, you know, the defense, or the toughness on the Lehman Russes is, like, 10. Charge, they will wound vehicles on a 4+. Yep, that is true. But, I mean, that's asking a lot. That is definitely asking a lot from them. Oh well, I hope it works out. I hope you end up being able to make it work, because I would love to hear that a bunch of Custodies bikes blew up a Baneblade. That'd be hilarious. I don't exactly remember how many attacks they get with those melee attacks. But hopefully sheer volume will be able to do it. Because, yeah, like, the rest of the, they will wound Gravis units on it too. That is true. The Custodies will have no problems dealing with non-vehicle equipment. That is something they are very, very good at. Okay, same thing. We're going to make the parts that get hit by the light the most obvious. Plenty, you can use lethal hits or sustained hits in fighting stance. Yep. Okay. Okay, just gonna go ahead and dry brush that down a little bit. Oh, I didn't hit those little hinges. I think there's only one on here. Nope, there's two. So we can do that one right there. That one right there, just to give it a base, and then after that it'll be really angry and good looking. I believe there's a stratagem or an enhancement that gives you that allows you to use 2 on a unit. Yeah, I don't remember. I don't know much about how the Custodies play because I've only ever brought them out for Combat Patrol. And I 3D printed a bunch of them a long time ago when I was first interested, and I played a single game. It was, I think, 1,500 points against 2 friends who were playing Admech and Salamanders. And between Trajan Valoris and the Alaris Custodians, in 9th edition, they just bodied everything. It was kind of disgusting how powerful they were. I don't think I even brought a Dreadnought to that game. It was just Alaris Custodians, Trajan, and I think 2 or 3 squads of Custodian Guard. Okay, so yeah, at that point I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. This wasn't fun to do, and watching you guys play, it wasn't fun. It didn't look like it was very fun for you. So they just kind of sat and collected dust until I remembered they were entirely 3D printed, and then I threw most of them away and reclaimed the bases. Which also allowed me to reclaim that storage drawer, which I think made my whole situation a lot better there. Okay, again, all I'm doing is the thing I learned from watching Phelon Miniatures, where he talked about how to do good non-metallic metal. It was essentially just cover 80% of your last layer. And that's just been incredibly helpful for knowing how much. It's not like, you know, the hard and fast rule, but as a rule of thumb, it's been really helpful for figuring out how much I'm actually supposed to cover with the next layer for a non-metallic metal. And that's incredibly crucial for making it look good, because if you cover too much in a non-metallic metal layer, it ends up looking like dog water. which, you know, no one wants. Okay. Oh my goodness, it's 11 o'clock? I looked at the clock a minute ago and it was 10. I think time is lying to me. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and hit this knee bit. And I mean, I don't know how it's showing up on the camera, but you can already see how much more vibrant this model is getting simply because of this extra layer of orange on top of the initial layer of like this mottled orange maroon. So I'm pretty jazzed with how this dude is turning out. Oh, there's something I can do to be gross. This little guy is gonna get a rusted, corroded strap over his sensor, which I'm then gonna paint to look like a very sickly green metallic. And I think that's what's gonna happen up here. This is gonna end up being like a sickly green metallic. It's gonna look great. But yeah, back to the base orange. And again, just getting a little bit of it on there. Not trying to go too hard with this color. Perfect. Now the bells are going to be interesting. I haven't done bells in this rust style before, so I'm curious how good or bad this is going to look. And I mean, like I said, I wish you all the best luck with the Custodies. I'd love to see you get some revenge on your friends who are just kind of cheesing you out of games. I suppose you can report back with your results. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I've always had a problem with competitive games like these that are also like in the industry of selling you things is it always feels like it's an arms race. It's either an arms race or you've got to have so many rules of conduct in place that you're almost not playing the same game as everyone else. And that's what actually got me out of Magic really hard, was I got tired of having to do that. Because the friend group I was in that was playing it was really into that stuff. They were still in that phase of everything is awesome and I want to be able to do everything. And so all the games just kind of became this thing of who bought the coolest thing today and who brought like the most busted deck today. And that's just not fun. Everything just kind of became degenerate and uninteresting. And it sounds like, though, one of the people who play in it, he's kind of decided that, yeah, it's not fun to be stuck in that arms race, because economically, it's just destructive to your finances. So he's tried to start doing, like, themed games with lower budgets and whatnot, and also just tried to get away from the whole toxicity. Which to me was kind of funny, because, to some extent, the way he played when I was playing with him kind of fostered that toxicity. So I'm happy that he grew, and I'm happy that he got some new perspective on it. But you have a meta grind MTG friend. Yeah, I mean, if that's how you want to play the game and that's how you want to engage in it, fine. That's cool. That's what the game's about now. It's all about playing competitive, and focusing on that. But it's just not my thing. Okay. Okay, again, I don't want to hit everything with this layer. You just like Commander? Yeah, and like I'm glad that you do, because you definitely engage in it in what I would consider an incredibly healthy way to engage in Commander. The problem is that Commander itself has become something of a really bad format to play in because of how many mixed signals it plays in. Spent like 3,000 on a competitive Commander deck. And see, that's where I draw the line, is like, Commander was originally built for judges to play to pass time, right? It was not meant to be a competitive format. And so now, it's become one, and it's just like, you've taken Legacy and you've opened it up to try and tell as many people as possible that they can play it with anything, and then you've again kind of turned it into an arms race or a game with a shit ton of rule zeros. And again, competitive MTG is fascinating because high-level players are really nice, especially the more public-facing ones. It's a lot smaller. Competitive scenes are less chill, and it's sad. I've never been a huge fan of Star Wars, and so I never engaged with it that much. I've seen 7 of the 9 core movies. And, but that's about it. I've never really engaged with it beyond that. I thought Battlefront was an absolute banger of a game, and I'm really happy to see that they've, like, re-released it and revived it for the Switch. But beyond that, it has been my thing. And yeah, that's something I also think is really cool about competitive MTG, especially competitive Commander, is that, yeah, once you get to a certain level where people's pride really isn't on the line, everyone engages with it in a far healthier way. But, the issue with that is that a lot of people want to get there, but they don't have the right mindset for it. You know the movie with the droid factories? Yeah, that was, Attack of the Clones? Give me a second. I'm being asked a question about 3D printing, and I think I can answer this. Okay. He was asking about printing some things from magnetizing. Imagine that, but with angels. That's one of my decks. Yeah, no, angels lend themselves very well to token generation. A lot of competitive Pro Tour players are friends, and it's very fun to see. Yeah, and that's kind of the cool part, is that once you hit a certain level of the society, it becomes a lot more chill. But until you get there, you have to deal with way too much toxicity by people who think they have to be awful to get there. I think I might have already said that, but I got distracted, and I'm sorry. When one dies, I get 4 to take their place. Very cool. I had a Kaikar-led token deck that relied on Storm and just kind of cantripping off to make an army of them, and then would slam down something dumb like a Chroma's Memorial to kill. For the kill shot. But, But yeah, like, there was actually just some recent controversy, and it was very minor on Twitter, because a player that represented Hareruya, they did the thing where they kind of bitched at another player for beating them, and, as they put it, costing them their place at the Pro Tour or whatever. And it turned out that the guy had lost a bunch of other games and was just really salty at this one player because he was the one who closed the door on his chances. And it's just like, well, then win the game. Don't be an ass. Don't put them on blast on social media because you're a sore loser. And I think he ended up getting called out for it once people realized exactly what it was. And then a bunch of people called him out for his own toxic behavior and cheating, which they had on camera. So it's just more of that drama that really doesn't need to be there. And I think that's what was kind of cool about seeing, like, the actual high-level players play, is that once it got to that level, like you said earlier, they're all friends. And so there's a lot of respect involved on top of just actual high-level competition. You think you have, like, 2 diplomacy decks? I understand it's a huge part of the game, and it might just be because of who I played with, but I can't stand diplomacy decks. Like, they're cool for what they do, and if you got the right group, then awesome. And it's cool that you make them work, but the person I played with that kind of helped make the game a whole lot less fun for me had to have an answer for everything, had to be in control at all times, and anytime he felt control slipping away, he became incredibly toxic. And it's just like, I don't want to play a game where every time something bad happens to you, you get angry. I love Storm as an archetype, and I'm so sad it isn't good in Commander, since that's one of the few places you can brew fringe archetypes freely without worrying about getting curb stomped by Sheoldred. That's why seeing vampires when the Pro Tour is awesome. Yeah. I wouldn't know. I haven't been paying close attention to Magic in close to a half a decade at this point. The best I've done is notice like new Commander decks and whatnot. I bought the Warhammer one when it came out for the Imperium, and I've just kind of kept it as is. You just play them to watch a free-for-all and sell it to all sides. So you just help encourage chaos, which is exactly what they're for, and that's pretty cool. Okay, what was... Oh yeah, I gotta stay focused on one piece, man. I'm bouncing all over the place. Okay. But yeah, it just really got to a point where I didn't feel good when I won. I didn't feel good when I lost. They printed Blood Artist 2 and a deck with it and a 3-mana Sorin that's -3 to put Vampire straight into play and won. Yeah, that sounds like that'll do it. I just saw that, like, one of the Sorins was exploding in price. That must have been why. Sorry, people that don't know Magic, we're talking about Magic. Currently, I'm trying to do a non-metallic metal, like corroded rust on this guy, and I think it's turning out okay. I suppose we'll see later. I think I know about Vein Ripper. I will admit, I'm kind of excited for Bloomborough, simply because I grew up reading Brian Jakes' Redwall series, and there's like a whole lot of influence in there. And so to just see them make a set that very clearly like references Mouse Guard and Redwall just makes me so very happy. It lets my inner child be happy. I don't remember the name of the cowboy-themed one. Hey, Montravon, how's it going? It's been a while since I've seen you. Hope things are going well. I'm in the middle of detailing a Death Shroud Bodyguard Sergeant. That is the last one of the group, because I did the other two, and they're all based up, and all I need to do is kind of like seal them, and they're good to go. But then I gotta finish him, so that I can have a bodyguard unit for my Typhus that I did. I'm really thankful that the new setup for the camera has worked out really nicely, because it looks like I'm getting a whole lot better sharpness on the Mini, and I personally can get closer to the dude, which allows me to do far better detailing on him. But yeah, I hope things have been going well, Montravon. How are you doing? Okay, this is gonna get an edge highlight there. Stop playing Magic because I had to buy toxic cards to compete against my toxic friend. Yeah, that's kind of it. It's just like, I don't want to play a game where I have to escalate the assholery of said game. And so that's what kind of made me tap out. And that, and really diving into Warhammer, meant I didn't have money for Magic. Because it's like, look, I can do one or the other. And my wife and I like to joke whenever we talk about it that I was looking for a hobby that would cost less. You should turn on the sound? Yeah, that would be a good idea. It's really hard to hear the audio when the audio off. Armageddon to destroy all lands on my friend's ramp deck. Well, I mean, it's a valid strategy. Land destruction sucks, but if part of your deck is supposed to be land advantage, it makes sense to run cards that help you obtain land advantage. And see, that's part of what I'm not too fond of, is it's like, you either gotta have a ton of rule zeros to make Commander fun, or you gotta just accept that people are gonna have better cards than you. But yeah, I don't know if you can hear me yet, Montravon. I was saying, hey, how's it going? Good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. Hope things are going well. Well, if it's an unwritten rule, then it's not a rule. And that's the problem. I know land destruction is generally frowned upon, but until, you know, the rules committee says, no, can't do, and bans the card, then it's perfectly legal to play. My buddy Land Destruction is a professional game ender. Yeah. But again, and see, that's the thing, is I shouldn't, I mean, I'm not arguing with you guys about it, but if I were to sit down and play, I shouldn't have to argue with people about it. If it's bad enough that it needs to not be there, then the rules committee should make it an actual rule. And not just hope that everyone follows an unwritten rule. You get the OP reference? Yeah. And that's why I don't think Commander as a competitive thing, it's not that it's bad and shouldn't be done. I'll wait for you to finish your point, Semijolis, before I continue rambling. It's just that it slows the game down if you aren't winning from it. Okay, well then make it not a thing. Not all games are going to be good beats. Or make a rule about stalling. We're about to go to a birthday party, but I thought I'd take a quick look while you're online. Thank you, I appreciate it. He got into 40k at the same time, and I want, for the same I want to destroy everyone aspect. Yeah, and that's just, again, I'm not too fond of the toxic bullying thing. And yet, Semijolis, I get what you're saying, but if it's that bad, then it should be called stalling. And they should categorize it as such. But until they do, even if it's just to slow the game down, and they're not winning from it, it's the same as a board wipe. It helps them stabilize, and if it's not helping them there, then they need to be a better player. And at that point, it's just bad beats. And destruction is important, but just doing it like any other card is non-optimal. And why should there be optimal in a game that's meant to be casual? It should be more of a power level discussion than a game content thing in Magic. Well, even then, when you talk about power levels, no one has any idea what their power level actually is. Everyone's deck is a 7, right? And see, again, this is where I have a problem with it, is it's all based on abstract agreements that no one can actually agree upon. So it's like, and again, I don't want to yuck anyone else's yum, because a lot of people enjoy Commander and are able to play it without any problems, and more power to them. I would never want to take that away from them, and I don't have the power or authority to do so. So I can just kick rocks without socks. But that's why I kind of got out of it. We should switch to Canlander. As soon as they have dice turn against them, they get really upset. Yeah. I don't know. It's just, I feel like Magic is a great way to unwind with friends. I feel like it's a tremendously well-made game. I feel like Commander is a great form of expression and could be really fun in the right group. But unfortunately, the way it's done in the public is just so inconsistent. It's competitive, but it's not competitive. It's got rules, but it also has unwritten rules. And if you don't follow those, then you're a problem. And if you do follow those, then you're a tryhard. I don't know. I got stressed out whenever I did competitive Magic when I was playing Modern and trying to get good at that, but at least I knew where I stood with all the rules. And once it got to a point where I wasn't enjoying it anymore, I got out and started doing Commander, and then my stress level spiked intensely. Because it just felt like everything I was doing was wrong, or I had to account for someone else doing something awful. But at the same time, I used to host a tabletop gaming club with Semijolis, who is a coworker and a friend, and it's just kind of like, there were a group of kids there that every Friday would show up, and every Friday would play Commander, and every Friday had a blast, right? And so I'm glad Commander existed to give them that degree of enjoyment and just, you know, unwinding after a school week. And that's freaking awesome. So I really want to double down that I'm not trying to say Commander bad and Commander shouldn't exist, and if you like Commander, you bad. Just, I have misgivings about it, and that's why I don't play Magic. That's a huge reason I don't play Magic anymore. One of your kids is a Grumpy Gills? I'm not surprised. I mean, that's also where it thrives, though. Magic and like these games in general is, playing them like that gives them an opportunity to work through, like, their emotional dissonance about things like that. And hopefully they'll come out of it, you know, a more mature person. And that's kind of the beauty of it. Speaking of, I know that you can't really name any names or be super specific, but how's the Warhammer group going now that I'm gone? Everything going okay with those lads? It's going okay. That's fair. I know I was like a major artery to that group, but I'm not really doing them any favors if I can't be there. So, it was time to go. They just kind of play? Well, that's fair. I'm happy that they've gotten to a point where they're that self-regulated. Okay, that's supposed to be a cable, but that's also exposed and it looks like it's showing guts and muscle fibers, so that's going to be muscle fiber. Yeah, I was really happy that before I left, everyone seemed to have at least one combat patrol to play with. So, I'm sad that I can't be there to provide more diversity and help them out, but, you know, not sure if they're actually playing right, but who cares? Yeah, if they're having fun, who cares? If they're not, you know, taking these experiences to go to tournaments and then play it exactly like that, who really cares? They're enjoying themselves. They're getting what they need to get out of the hobby. That's kind of my thing. Okay, that was way too much water on there. I accidentally left the bit in the ferrule, and now that black paint is all kinds of messed up. There we go. Haven't noticed any damage to my minis yet, so don't jinx it, man. Don't jinx it. I think they're pretty aware. They accidentally knocked a couple of limbs off of mine, and thankfully more of that was due to them being glued poorly, but they were really upset when they did it. So they got that lesson of, like, these things are fragile. And so hopefully that's encouraged them to play very carefully with the minis that they're playing with. At least that's kind of been my experience, and it's, again, I appreciate the general maturity level of that group, because even though they are kind of goofy, that's because they're high schoolers. But by and large, they seem to take it very seriously and have, like, good regard and reverence for for the fact that they're handling someone else's property. And it also helps that some of them had to buy it themselves and they saw the price tags on it, you know? I really would have loved to have stayed there and helped grow the Warhammer group, but, you know, it is what it is. Okay. Gonna do the same thing on the Scythe that I've done with all the other ones. I really like the look of the gray metallic blade underneath. That looks like it's still, you know, somewhat sharp and well treated versus the rest of the corroded piece. So that's what's happening here. I'm going to paint all of the cables in that rubber hose black, which I know doesn't make sense for the death card, but I really don't care. And on top of that, I mentioned earlier, all of the incense burners are also going to be painted in like that iron metallic, but they're also going to get like a green slime wash over them to show that horrible corrosion and gross is coming out of them, which should help them look a little more visually interesting. So yeah, there we go. I think the next thing for him is going to be doing that little bit right there. Next on him, probably the dark brown. Can do the dark brown on the horns, the little symbol thing, the haft of the weapon. Yeah, I think dark brown is next. Let's go ahead and hit that. But yeah, after I'm done with the streaming, what's probably going to happen is I'm going to go get some lunch, and then I've got some more studying to do. I fell a little bit behind on my coursework, and while I'm not going to try and kill myself to catch back up, I would definitely like to do at least a little bit over the weekend to feel a little better about where I am with the coursework. Okay, we're going to do this one too here. Hit some of that. Hit some of that as well. And all I'm doing is making the leather, I don't even remember what these are called. These leather like tassels underneath the weapon or underneath the shoulder pad have this nice rich dark brown to go off of, so when I start painting it slightly lighter colors, it'll stand out more. And I think there's a lot of little detail work that I can do on this mini to really make it stand out. And I'll have to get back to that later, once I get him on a base. But right now, my main goal is to just kind of block everything in. Oh, look, there's another cable that I can paint up. So I'm going to go back and hit that. And I just realized that even though I did get a lot of those cables, I skipped ahead too far. I should be continuing to paint the rust on this guy, because they should go up to a much brighter color. Stopping was not what I was supposed to do. So we're going to mix a little bit of yellow, which I think... Oh, that yellow is getting real kludgy. We're going to mix some yellow in with the orange to make more of a bright yellow, or a bright orange. And now I'm going to very carefully start hitting some of the edges on the rusted bits to really bring out that they are very heavily rusted. Though if you notice, my ability to paint a straight line on here is rapidly diminishing. Actually, no, I'm supposed to be using the ice yellow. Is rapidly diminishing primarily because the point on this brush is considerably beaten down because I have abused the hell out of it. And again, this is kind of a thing where what I need to do is I need to go to like a professional painting seminar and talk to someone so they can tell me what the heck I'm doing to destroy these brushes so quickly. Because I go through far too many brushes than I should. There we go. Might just be that I'm way too assertive with them. Who knows? That's one reason why I eventually want to go to Adepticon or something. I really want to go to one of these conventions where I can actually sit down and pick the brain of some of these master painters. Like, my interest in playing Warhammer is fairly minimal compared to my interest in learning how to be a better painter. Especially now that the game is growing the way it is, I would love to be able to make commission painting an actual viable source of income for me, even if it's not the main source of income, you know? Okay, gonna go ahead and hit the tips of those to say that that's happening there. And yeah, see, I can't even do an edge highlight on this anymore because the paintbrush is so beaten up and worn down. That's okay. Okay, same thing. We're going to hit some of this with the brighter orange to imply that there is rust forming and light is bouncing off of it. I'm going to hit some of that stuff. There we go. Cool. I think I'm going to need to actually just pull some more of this yellow out because it's really dried up on the wet palette. And it's not giving me a whole lot to work with here. Yeah, nope, it's time. Okay, that can go there. Ice yellow can come back out. I'm going to actually put it closer to the orange so I can use it a little bit better. Dry off the paintbrush. Mix in some of the orange with the ice yellow. Get kind of this weird pinky orange color. And I mean, you can already see what it's doing to the Mini. It's definitely adding some nice light to it and giving your eyes somewhere to focus. This actually might be too orange. There we go. And let's finish off this part near his knee before I go back down because I accidentally forgot to do his other toe. Or his boot cap or whatever you want to call it. Okay, we're going to hit that. And just do these little streaks near the bottom. A little bit there. A little bit over there. I think I'll do an Imperial Fist themed heavy list. Do you mean like Gravis and heavy artillery? Because that's one of my favorite. That's been my main army for a little while now. He's going really all in on the idea of Gravis and big ass artillery to make sure that you aren't safe no matter where you are. Semajoli's actually got to play against that once, and he actually ended up beating me on points because I did not play the objectives because I am not a bright man. Gravis, Termes, and tanks. I actually just made a list like that. It was Torgaradon with some aggressors, a set of the heavy Melta guys, the assault or the Terminators with the Terminator Captain, two Ballistus Dreadnoughts, a Vindicator, a Land Raider. It was just all of the heaviest things I had in my collection, because that's the kind of army I want to play. I'm naturally not a very large person. I'm like 5'8" on a good day. But I am stocky. And so I think that just kind of made me vibe so hard with the idea of heavy infantry with heavy artillery. And just kind of being this slowly moving force that's eventually going to just overwhelm you with firepower. Like I said, didn't play the objective like a doofus, but it was definitely a lot of fun to lug around that kind of firepower. It's actually gotten scarier now because they've made Gravis cost a whole lot less. I think heavy intercessors are down to 100 points now, and Terminators are down to 185, and I think the only things that went up in cost were the broken stuff. So you can definitely... You have to go? Okay, Montrevon, I'll see you later, buddy. Have fun at the party, okay? Yep, have a good evening, buddy. I will see you later. It was good seeing you again. Okay, same thing here. Just gonna go ahead and do some of that. At this point, I'm just kind of rapidly dry brushing on the parts no one's really gonna notice. 5'8" with platforms? Probably, actually. I used to be 5'9", and I guess I shrank over the last couple years just a smidge, because when I got a physical, I think late last year, they had me do my height, and normally they would say I'm like 5'8.5", which is like fine. I am not tall. That's fine. I've kind of, you know, grown to accept that. But when they last did it, I was like 5'7 3/4", and it's like, oh no, I'm shrinking. I'm not old enough to shrink. Been doing yard work, just got done. That paint job looks amazing. Thank you, I appreciate it. It's just been a lot of like little things happening over and over again. Like I've mentioned before, if you ever want to try and do non-metallic metal, just remember 80% of your last layer. Phelon Miniatures did an amazing video on non-metallic metal of different levels of detail, and the one thing he mentioned that really stuck with me is that it should be like 80% of the coverage of your previous layer. And all I'm trying to do is hit the spots that I would consider. Since me and my roomies are so casual, I'll be using the Spartan Land Raider. Oh, did I ever tell you about the clown car? I've talked about it a few times on stream, and I've never gotten to play it, but one of these days, I'm going to bring the clown car to like a 2,000 point game. Because I don't have a Spartan Land Raider, but I definitely have a Land Raider Crusader, and so I can definitely do the clown car. Yeah, you can bring Legends stuff to non-tournament. That's going to be a lot of fun. You're going to give them something to worry about. For those who don't know, the clown car was my idea for a dumb 1,000 points list, and now that things have changed price, or changed points cost, it's no longer 1,000 points. And it leaves just enough of a gap that I can't add anything else. But it was entirely built for the memes at 1,000 points. It was Tor Garradon with 3 aggressors and Apothecary Biologus, which is like the I give lethal wounds dude. And you put him in there with 5 Devastators who are all armed with like heavy bolters or something else that can wipe out mobs. And they're all in the Land Raider Crusader. And when the game starts, your goal is to take the Land Raider Crusader and just drive it as quickly as you can over to the biggest thing the enemy has, and then offload everyone, and have the aggressors and the Devastators just unload all of their firepower into whatever is guarding the heavy, and then charge with Garradon and the aggressors and slap the fuck out of the heavy and kill it. And so I called it the clown car because it was just as many stupid chonky Marines as I could get into a vehicle just so I could deliver them all to one place. And again, never got to play it. Never had the stones to actually like take it to an army list and try it out. But now that it's less than 1,000 points, I think I'm going to include it in any 2,000 points list. Yeah, the Laser Destructor's a lot of fun. The one that's on the it's on the Gladiator, right? I know it's also on the Repulsor Executioner because that's where I first found it, and it's easily one of my favorite models and one of my favorite weapons on it. But again, never got to play that one either. Very cool weapon. At some point I will, when I find some room to actually put it in an army list. Okay. I use it on the Spartan. Oh, I didn't realize it was on the Spartan. I thought they had, like, quad las cannons. I don't know. It's been a while since I've actively looked at the data sheets. But that's why I like the Vindicator so much. It's got that or the Devstructors. Not sure what that is. Okay. Again, nothing too big here. Just trying to give it a little bit of a highlight so that it realistically looks like it's shedding light on, or reflecting light from whatever light source is hitting it. For the sponson choices, I'll have to look at them again. I haven't looked at the Spartan Land Raider sponson choices in a while. I do remember them being wild when I did look at them. Okay, admittedly, getting a little sloppy here. I think I'm also getting hungry, which is obviously impairing my decision-making. I'll have to get me a Spartan Land Raider, but actually, no, I don't, to be honest. I don't need to buy anything. I've got enough, and I don't know where I'd put it in an army list. But it is a really cool model, so more power to you for having one. Like I said, that's where I got my my Spartan Land, or my Land Raider Crusader for. Okay. Okay, there we go. There we go. If I'm stationary, hit wounds on 2-ups. Yep. That sounds about right. And if you have, if you went with Anvil Siege Force, because it has heavy, you're also going to get +1 to wound. Which will only matter against the biggest of big, but it's still fun to say. Okay, let's see. How can I hit this without being obtuse about it? Let's go ahead and again just putting little bitty highlights on here. I don't want to add too much because if I do, the white is just going to overwhelm it and look terrible. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, you're already talking about the +1 to wound. Now, I might have watered this down just a little too much and thinned it down just a bit much, but it's gonna be fine. Yeah, from what I understand, Anvil Siege Force is like super not good to play, and it's very limited, but I do not care. I really dig the Anvil Siege Force. I love the flavor behind it. I love what it does for the army. It's compelled me to buy more to buy some whirlwinds, which I'll eventually do once I get some more money. Like, from what I understand, I think like the Vanguard Force and the original Gladius Force are the two best ones if you're going to be playing Space Marines, but I do not care. I don't want to play those. I want to play Anvil. Okay. That can go in there. That can go there. Okay. Nope, I got this up here. I was about to say, I think I'm done with this level of highlighting, but it turns out I am not. Okay, we're gonna hit that. Hit that just little bits. And now, oh, are you just light because you faded, or are you light because I didn't get you? Okay. I think that's where I'm going to call it for now. I know it's a little earlier than I said, but I'm getting hungry, and I should probably start, yeah, play the Dakka Marines, exactly. Yep, this is where I'm stopping with this guy for today. I'm going to really put a lot of detail into that face. I can't wait to get to work on that. That's where the new brushes are coming in. But, yep, that's where he is. He started off completely unpainted, I think. I don't think I started working on... No, I started working on him last night. That's right. So he had... I think all of his green armor was done. And I spent today working on his trim. And so I'm glad that he seems to have turned out okay. But yeah, this is where we're stopping. Looks like I'm almost done with the trim. I probably want to do some final bright highlights to really make him pop. But I think I'm pretty cool with how he's turned out so far. That being said, let's see who we can send you guys off to. Is anyone online? No one's online because it's a weekend. Anyone doing the Warhammer? Oh, we got Cryo Cheese doing the Venatari non-metallic metal wings. So I'm going to go ahead and send you guys over to Cryo Cheese. Raid Cryo Cheese. I think that, yep, there it is. And that way you get to see him work on some really cool custodes. Okay guys, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you later. I might stream again later. Bye-bye!